Hey guys, and welcome back to another Engine 4 tutorial. Today we're going to be starting off creating an item inspection. So this might be more on the simple side, however today what we're doing is we're going to be going over how to pick up and put down the item, and then in the next video we're going to be going over how to actually inspect it so you can move it around, look at it, and all that good stuff. But again, today we're going to be picking it up and putting it down, so let me show you what that looks like. Again, might be more of a simple version to some people, but it gets the job done and it still works quite well and efficiently. So we press E on it, we're going to pick it up, we press E again, it's going to then be put down on the floor. And we can pick it up and put it down as many times as we want, we can walk around anywhere and then put it straight back down again. So this is what we're setting up today, and obviously this episode doesn't have to just be item inspection, this can just be picking up and putting down an item if you want that as well. Again, this is what we're making, so without further ado, let me delete this code and I'll show you how I've done it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create an item parent for all of our inspectable items. So to do that, I'm going to right click, get a blueprint class, get an actor, and I'm just going to name this one inspectable parent or item parent or anything along those lines. And I do already have one named that, so I'll put inspectable item parent like so. And this is technically a parent. The way to make it a parent, obviously, is if you right click on it, you can then create child blueprint class. I'm not going to do that, but doing it this way means you can just right click, do that, and then any child of that will have the same code, the same elements, everything that this parent has, so it just makes this a little bit easier to do, and a bit more efficient as well. So we can do all the code in this one item, and then we'll do it for all of them else. But let's open it up straight away. All we're going to do in here is add a component, adding a static mesh. I'm going to name this one item, and just to test it out, I'm going to give it a sphere. Again, you can give this any item you want, but again, this is for the parent, so you don't really need one in here, because when you create your own child of this, it will have its own static mesh, which you can set. That's why I can see it is rather big. So let me also just scale this down to about 0.5 maybe even 0.25. We compile that. And so again, now we just have our static mesh in here. What I also want to do is make sure that the bottom of this is in the center. So I'm going to just drag that up there. So now the bottom of our object is in the center of that. And that's just going to help us with picking it up and putting it down. We may change that in a future episode, however right now we want it to be like this. So we can compile, save, and one final step in here is to select inspectable item parent self, so this one up here, and we're going to search for tag, we're going to give it a tag. I'm going to name this tag interactable. And what I'm also going to do is just select all and copy it, so Control A, Control C, so that when we want to use it, I can just paste it in there so I know it's spelled exactly the same. And this tag here is how we know that we want to be able to interact or pick up or inspect this item. So you can call it inspectable as well, if that makes more sense. We can close that, compile, save, and close the item, as that is all we need to do in there. The rest of the code is going to be in the character blueprint. So let's open that up now. So I'm just going to select it here and edit third person BP, or you can go to content, third person BP, blueprints, third person character. In here, we want to be able to interact with it. So what I'm also going to do is go to edit, project settings. Once it loads, I'm going to go down to input, down here, and I'm going to create an action mapping. So you can see I already have one, so I'm just going to delete that and make a new one. So I'm going to hit the plus action mapping, naming this one interact, and I'm going to make this the E key. So when we press E, it's going to fire off this event. You can set this to whatever your key you like, and you can name it whatever you like as well. And don't worry if you don't have any of these other action mappings, these are just from previous tutorials. Again, name it whatever you like, give it whatever key you like, it's just when we press this key, it will fire off this event. We can close that. Back in our event graph, we can right click, and we can now search for that. So if I search for interact, you see we have action events interact there. So now whenever we press E, it's going to fire off this event here. And when we fire this off, we want to then use a line trace to see which object we're looking at, so which one we want to interact with. So I'm going to come out of pressed, and I'm going to get a line trace by channel. But the start is going to be our camera. So I'm going to get my first person camera here. This does work in third person as well, however it just looks a lot better in first person. And I do have videos on creating a first person camera as well. So we can come out of the camera and get the world location. That is going to go into the start. This is also going to go into an addition, so a vector plus a vector, and that is going to go into the end. And this addition here is to keep it going in a straight line. What we want to add to that is just the forward facing direction of our camera, so the line goes forward. So I'm going to come out the camera again, get forward vector. Out of this, I'm going to get a multiply. So vector multiplied by a float, and this float is how far we want the line to go. So I want it to be about 250, as that's usually quite a good value for a line trace of interact. And that obviously goes to the addition, which goes in the start. So again, this line trace is going to draw a line from our camera's current location to 250 units in front of the camera, having a line like that. So if I just change draw debug type to for duration, and then if I hit play, we can see what this looks like. So when I press E, we're going to have the line go in front of us like so. Again, customize this length to be whatever you like. I'm going to set that back to none, like so. Then after this, I'm going to hold down B, left click to get a branch with the return value as the condition, execution going in there. So this just means if we do hit something, because if we do hit something, we want to see what it is. To see what it is, we want to come at the out hit and break hit result, opening that up so we have all these different options here, because we want to use the hit actor to see which actor we are interacting with. And to see if we want to be able to interact with it, we can come out of hit actor and get actor has tag. Now if I go on none and hit Ctrl V, you can see that's now got my interactable in there. Obviously if you didn't copy it, you can't do that, so just type in the tag that you have there on your interactable or inspectable items. Again, this is to make sure that we are only trying to inspect with items we want to be able to inspect. And we can close that and move this up like so, because again we're checking to see if A, we've hit something, and B, if we can actually interact with it. So let's hold down B, left click again, with a condition as that return value, execution as true of that first branch. So again, we're checking it if we've hit something. And then after this, we're going to hold down S, left click to get a sequence, because we want to fire off two different things now. Those two different things we want to fire off are going to simulate us picking up the object. So we're going to do then one first, as we want this to be done first. So I'm going to hold down O and left click to get a do once node, the execution going into then one, and reset, I'm going to right click and add a custom event, naming this reset do once. You can name it whatever you like, but I'm just giving it a very simple name, like so. And what we want to do now is we want to have it so the player is now holding the object. So to do that, I'm going to be using a child actor. So we can go to the viewport, add a component, and add a child actor like so. I'm just going to name this item actor like that. And I'm going to drag and drop that onto my first person camera, so wherever the camera goes, the object goes with it, so as if the player is looking around. And just to test it, I'm going to make the child actor class my item parent, or inspectable item parent. And now you can see we have that there. So I'm going to move this over and see where I want it. So if that's still a bit big for you, you can go into the item itself and scale it down. In fact, I think I might do that. So I'm just going to open it up, select the item, and scale it down to maybe 0.1 instead. Compile, go back, and that looks a bit better. Again, you can see this is where the item is going to be when holding it. So I think there's going to be good for me. I may also need to actually move this back down again. Let's have a look. Yes, I do. So let's move it back there, compile, and I think that's going to be good for me. Again, it's all about just customizing it to get it looking great for you. The visuals of it, completely up to you. So now if I just clear the path there, we have it back as empty, which is obviously what we want. What I'm also going to do in here is add an arrow. And this is going to be a simple reference for where we want this to be. So what I'm going to do is deselect this, add component, add an arrow, like so, because this is something that we can't see in game unless obviously we tell it to. And I'm also going to put that on the camera as well. The location of this, I'm just going to make the same as the child actor, so I can right click on the location, hit copy, go to the arrow, right click location, and hit paste. So essentially we want to move the actor into that location. So we can compile and save that, as we're just using that as a reference for the location we want to move it to. Now we can go back to the event graph in here. And again, completed of the do once, we want to pick up the object. So we're going to get our item actor here, or basically your child actor. And out of this, we're going to set child actor class, with that going to the completed there. And the class of this wants to be whichever item we're interacting with. So very simply, we can come out of this hit actor here, and we can just get class, with a return value going into the in class there. So we're seeing what class of object and item we're interacting with, so that's the one we're then going to pick up and spawn. I'm just going to double click this to get some root nodes to keep it looking nice and tidy. As well as that, we also want to make sure that we're picking up in the right location. So to keep it in the same location, what we need to do is convert the world location into a relative location. That's very simple. So what we're going to do is drag out of the item actor again, and set relative location, connecting that into there like so. And the new location, again, is quite simple. What we can do is right click and get an inverse transform location. So we're turning a world location into a local location. Return value going to the new location there. The transform wants to be our transform of our camera. So we can get our FPP camera there, which is your first person camera, and get world transform. With the return value going into the T of this node here, because the T just stands for transform, and you can tell because it is an orange return value, which in Unreal means transform. The location wants to be the current world location of the item, so we come out of the hit actor again and get world location, or get actor location, sorry. Get actor location there, like so. Now what this is going to do is just turn the current item's location into a relative location so we can then spawn it in on our blueprint where we want it to be. And then we also want to destroy the actor which is on the floor or in game so that it looks like we've picked it up. So again, we're not actually picking up that object, we're just given the illusion we have. So we're spawning in a new one in the same location, but now it is in the character BP, because now we have it in here, it's a lot easier to interact with. So we can come out of this hit actor again. So I'm coming at the root node, and we just simply get a destroy actor, connecting that into there like so. And again, double click this to get some root nodes, just to keep it looking nice and organized. So I'll give you a rundown of this once again. So essentially, when we're interacting with something, we're going to get its current location. We're essentially just going to take it from the world into the character BP, because then it's easier for us to mess about with. And because we're putting it in here, and because we're moving it from the world into the character, we want to also remove it from the world as well. Hence why we're destroying the actor there. Off of then 0 for the sequence, we want to hold down D, left click to get a delay, connecting that to then 0, and I'll put the duration as 0.1. The reason we've got this delay is just so we're giving this code here enough time to fire off, because we need to do this before the rest of it, so we're just doing that here. And the reason I haven't just done it all in one is because we have this do once here. So we want this to fire off every time, we want this to fire off every other time. That will make a lot more sense once we do the rest of the code. After the completed, we're going to hold down B and left click to get a branch. This branch is going to see if we're already interacting with it, so if we want to pick it up or put it down. So to do that, we're going to create a new variable, naming this one inspecting, compile default value of false. And we're going to get that, and then out of this, we're going to get a not boolean, and that one is going to go into the condition of the branch there. So if we are not already inspecting with it. So if we're not inspecting, we're going to come out of true, and out of true, we're going to set inspecting to be true. Out of false, we're going to set it to be false. Because if we are not inspecting, we want to then start inspecting, and if we are inspecting, we want to stop inspecting. So I hope that makes sense for you. Then to pick it up and put it down, we're going to be using a timeline to create that simple animation. So we can come out of set inspecting to true and get an add timeline, and I'm going to name this one pick up item. I'm going to move this out a bit because I'm going to do some code in here in a second. And set inspecting to false can go into reverse of that timeline, because obviously if this is going to pick it up, reverse is going to put it back down. So that's very simple to do, another efficient way of keeping it all in one timeline. Out of the update of this timeline, so every time it moves along the track, what we're going to do is set the location of our item, so we're moving it. So we can drag and drop and get our item actor there, and just set relative location, with that going in the update like so. And then the new location, we want to go between values of A and B. So we can right click and get a lerp, getting a lerp vector, with the return value being the new location there, and A and B want to be our start and end locations. So we can right click on A, promote to variable, naming this start lock. We can right click on B, promote to variable, naming this end lock. So now we have the starting and ending locations for moving our item. And these are what we're going to be setting here, so we then know what they are. The alpha wants to be on the timeline here, which is why we have the timeline. So let's set up that track now. That is a very simple thing to do. We can double click on the timeline to open it up, add a float track, and I'm just going to name this one item track. The name doesn't matter at all. And we can also set the length. So the length is how long you want this animation to be. I'm going to give it a very quick one of 0.5 seconds. Then we can right click on the graph, add key to curve float, time of 0, value of 0, right click, add key, time of 0.5 or just your maximum length, and a value of 1. So it goes from the start to the end of the timeline perfectly like so. We can compile and close that. Now you see we have this item track here, and that can go straight into the alpha of that lerp. So we're going to be going between the values of A and B, or the start and end, using the timeline track here, which is obviously going from 0 to 1 in the timeline. And again, when we reverse it, we're going to go from B to A, or end to start. So let's now set up setting these variables so we know where the start and end is. That's very simple to do. The start is just going to be the current location. So what we can do is we can set start after set inspecting there, and we can drag and drop in our item actor. Out of this, we can get relative location. Connecting that straight into the start lock there, because the starting location is the current location of the item, so that works. Then the end location is also very simple. So we can set it there, and this is going to be the arrow we made, which is why I said this is a reference for where we want it to go. That's why we did it. So now back in the event graph, we can get the arrow, and we can also get the relative location, connecting that into the set end location there. What I might do is just give myself a bit more space, so just move this out a little bit, like so. But there we go. Now what's going to happen is it's going to go between the start and end location, or the current location to the arrow's location. So that will then work perfectly for us. So now we can pick it up and put it back down again. We compile and save. So what we want to do next is set up putting it back down again. So we're picking it up, now we want to set up putting it down. So we're going to do that off of finished of this timeline. So we're going to hold down B, left click to get a branch, with that going to the finished of the timeline, and the condition is going to be our inspecting boolean. And so this is because if we are inspecting it, we don't want to put it back down. But if we're not inspecting it and we've just finished the timeline, then we are putting it back down. So we're coming off of false of this branch, and nothing will be off of true. So off of false, we're going to get a spawn actor from class, because like I say, we destroyed it before to pick it up. Now to put it back down, we need to respawn it. The class is going to be getting the item actor here, so get item actor, and then get child actor class, with that going to the class of the spawn actor there. So now we're getting the class of the item to spawn it back in. The transform, we're going to make transform, so that's for the spawn transform, sorry. And for the location, we're going to do something similar as we did before. So here we got the world location into local. Now we want to go from local to world. So here we've got inverse transform location. Now we just want to get transform. So we're going to come out the location and get transform location, not inverse, just transform. And for the T, or the transform of this, it again wants to be our camera transform. So get our camera, and then get world transform, with that going into the transform there, like so. And the location wants to be the current location of our child actor. So we're going to get our item actor here, and out of this we're going to get relative location, not rotation, sorry, get relative location, connecting that into the location there. So it's just going to simply find the world location from this relative location. So it's a very handy tool to have. And that is obviously then going to go into the transform here. After this, what we're going to do is right click the return value, promoting it to a variable, and I'll name this one placed item. Doesn't matter too much what you name it. This is just because we want to be able to access this return value, and having it in a variable just keeps it nice and tidy. And after this, we also then want to despawn the actor we're holding, because now we've moved it from the blueprint back into the world, we now want to remove it from the character blueprint again. So we can get our item actor here, and then just set child actor class, and we'll put nothing in the in class. Because if we don't put anything in there, it's basically just resetting it to nothing. And then after this, we're going to call function reset do once, which is a custom event we made all the way back here. So we're resetting the do once, which means we can then pick up another item. So again, this is so we're picking it up, and now we're resetting it, we can pick up another one because we've just put it back down. So that will then work perfectly for us. And then after this, we want to have another line trace because we want to see where we put it. So currently, if the player puts it back down in the air, it's just going to stay in the air. We don't want it to do that. We could simulate physics, however that does get a bit glitchy with this system, so I'm doing it a different way instead. So I'm going to come out of the reset do once there, and get a line trace by channel, The start is going to be the current location of this item. So we're going to get our placed item here, get placed item. Out of this, we're going to get the actor location. So get actor location, and that is very simply the start of the line trace. And then we're going to come out with the return value of the get actor location again, and get a vector minus a vector, with that going to the end. Because we're just drawing a line from the current location all the way down to see if it's hitting the floor. I'm going to put a big number in the Z, so let's say 1000. So if the player places it really high up in the air, the line will go all the way down to the floor, and then it will move down to the floor that it hits. Actors to ignore, we do want to do this so it does ignore itself. Because ignore self here is for the character blueprint. We also want it to ignore this item. So we'll come out of actors to ignore, and we'll make an array. Within here, we can just simply get placed item, connecting that in there like so. Very, very simple. And then after this, we're going to come out of the out hit and break hit result, opening this up once again to get these different results. And we want to use the location, because again, we're setting the location for where we want it to go to. So I'm going to right click on the location, promote a variable, naming this new end lock, connecting that into the output of the line trace there. And I'm also going to close this break hit result like so. Then we've got a new end, we also want a new start. So I'm going to add another variable, naming this new start lock, and I'm going to make this one a vector like so, setting it after the new end there. And what I'm going to set it to is just the location of the item. So we can get placed item here, and out of this we're going to get actor location, connecting that into there like so. So again, it's going to go from the current location of the actor to the new end location, which is going to be the floor, which we'll find from this line trace here. So this just means it's going to be placed on the floor. And to make this nice and smooth again, what we can do is simply just come out of here, add a timeline. Once again, I'm going to name this one fix lock, as we're fixing the location, and that one's going to the play from start, not the play. Double click this, add a float track. I'll name this fix lock track, and the length I'm going to set to once again be 0.5 seconds, so half a second. And then on here, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So add key to curve float, time of 0, value of 0, right click, time of 0.5, and a value of 1. And that's right click, add key. We compile and close that, because again, it's the exact same thing we did before, so you should know what it's doing and why we've done it. And then we'll come out of that track once again and get a lerp vector, again the exact same way. A is going to be our new start lock, and B is going to be our new end lock. So once again, we're going from the start to the end. And to move it, we're going to get our placed item. So get placed item, and out of that, we'll set the actor location. Set actor location, once again, going to the update of the timeline, and the new location will be the return value of that lerp there. And that should be this now working for us. So it's quite a lengthy bit of code, so my apologies for that. But again, this is one of the more efficient ways that I came across doing it when testing this out earlier, because we're moving it from the world to the character and back to the world again. So once again, this is for picking up and putting it down, and the actual inspection we'll do in a future episode. So now let's hit play to test this out, and actually let's minimize this and place one in the world first. So inspectable item parent there. Hit play, go up to it, we press E, we picked it up, we can move around, we press E again, we're going to put it down, and it goes back down to the floor, and that works perfectly for us. And if we pick it up and then go all the way up, it should then go back to the floor like so. So again, this works perfectly for picking up and placing an item in game as you'd like. So I think that'll be it for this video, as we've done everything we wanted to do. We've started setting up our inspection item, but again, this video does work independently for just picking up and putting down an item like so. Again, you can do whatever you like with this code. This is more of just a general pick up and put down. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.